Hi, friend. Well, I have a question for you. A couple of questions, actually. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to fix other people, from really trying to help them do something better or something different? Or maybe it's that you feel the only way you can be accepted and loved and valued is to please everyone around you and to take care of everyone else's needs. Well, I know I have certainly felt those things. But recently, I read a book that helped me kind of unpack some of that stuff. And it's the Let Them book, the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And it's a really good book. I've done several videos on that. I'm going to link some of them up here and in the description. But today, I'm going to share with you 4 lessons that I have learned, the critical takeaways from the Let Them Theory. So that sounds good. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Kathy Weens, trauma recovery and women's empowerment coach, and I am on a mission to help women, mostly women like me over the age of 50, to overcome past traumas and to go on to live a life of empowerment and purpose. That's what I talk about on this channel, all the different ways that we can do that, and resources. And the Let Them Theory is certainly one of those resources. Now, if you're not familiar with the book, or maybe this is your first video that you're watching, I'll just share a little bit about what that theory is. So the Let Them Theory is when someone does something. Maybe it's something that makes us feel uncomfortable, or makes us feel sad, or hurts us. What we can do, so instead of feeling like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Running to that person and trying to fix it, or becoming angry with them, maybe lashing out at them. What we can do is simply say, let them. Now, of course, that's not true in every situation, but there are many things that come up in our life that just are not huge issues, but it's something that has hurt us. It's something that someone has said. And so in Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory, she says, let them and let me. And the reality is, and this is one of the lessons I'm going to get into, this is about control, what we can control and what we cannot control. And so the Let Them Theory helps us to focus on these things that we are able to control. And letting other people do what they are going to do is something we really can't control. But what we can control is the let me part of the theory, of what I do, how I react, how I process and think about what other people have done. Okay, so that's the basic Let Them Theory. So now I want to get into the 4 lessons, the 4 really important lessons that I've taken away from this book. So the first lesson that was really impactful for me was the power of influence. So I just talked a little bit ago about how we can control certain things and there are certain things we cannot control. And this is actually an activity that I've done with my coaching clients, and I also do it with myself too. When a situation comes up, a difficult situation, something that's hurtful to us, we can make 2 columns. And this is the activity that I have done before with my clients. Those 2 columns, and in one column we put control, what we can control, and in the second column we put what we can't control. And that just helps us to process the situation a little more carefully. But in Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory, she talks about what we can influence. Okay? So there are things that we can influence. Maybe we don't have control over it, but we can influence other people to do things. And the power of influence comes through modeling. Now, we can try to control the actions of other people, but that doesn't really work. What we can do is we can model those actions that we would like to see in other people. We can model the outcome that we would like to have happen. That's the way we can influence a situation. But how often do we want something to be different, but the reality is we're not doing the thing that we want either? So an example of this is one that Mel gives in the book. So she had some friends that went on a girls' weekend without her, and that was very hurtful to her. But what she realized, again, she couldn't control whether or not these people, these women, these friends, invited her on this weekend. But what she could control is how she responded to that. So the let me, she had to let them do what they were going to do, even though it was hurtful. And then the let me, or let her, how was she going to respond? And what she realized was, she had not been calling those friends. She hadn't been getting in touch with them. She had been very busy with her work. And so she wasn't connected with them. So here's where the power of influence comes in. She can start, or what she did, was she started trying to make time and make space for those friends in her life. Now, did that mean that those friends were automatically going to start calling her and including her in things? No. We can influence people and it may not change their behavior, but it helps us realize we have more power than we think. And so the power of influence was one of the really good things that I learned from the let them theory. The second lesson that I learned from the let them theory was what Mel Robbins called the frame of reference. Now, this was a concept that I had learned very early on in my healing journey. And I sort of look at it as the lens that we see the world through. So I've had some pretty big T traumas in my childhood. And I recognized as an adult when I was starting the healing process, so this was years ago, I recognized that if I had had a different childhood, I would view the world completely different. But my frame of reference, or my lens that I saw the world through, was based on the things that happened in my childhood. So a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse and neglect, that shaped not only how I saw myself, but how I saw the world around me. And an example of this, so let's think about this. If you walk into a room and you have a lens that you view the world through, or a frame of reference that tells yourself, hey, I'm confident, I can do this, people like me, I'm a good person. When you walk into that room, you're going to believe that the people in that room will be kind to you, that they will say hi, that they don't dislike you. But if you have a frame of reference, or again, a lens, a world view, like I have, or I've had, I'm really working on that. When you walk into that room, what I would often do is feel like nobody likes me. Oh, they think what I'm wearing is dumb. They think I'm ugly. Oh, my hair's too ugly. They'll think I'm stupid. Because that was the way my view of the world and my view of other people was shaped by the trauma and the abuse in my childhood. But the good thing is, we can change our frame of reference. We just have to recognize what it is and what our frame of reference is. How do we actually view the world? Are those people going to really think I'm a horrible person or not like me as soon as I walk into the room? A good question to ask yourself when you're challenging your frame of reference or your lens that you see the world through, a good question is say, what's the evidence of that? Are all those people when I walk into the room, are they going to turn around and frown at me or call me names? No, of course not. And so what is the evidence that supports my frame of reference? And that just helps us to think through and process and recognize this isn't really reality. This isn't really the truth. It's the story that I tell myself because of the experience I had in my childhood. The things I was taught about the world and about myself, my frame of reference. The other part that was a big aha moment for me with the frame of reference was, I recognized that I view the world in a certain way based on my experiences. But the aha moment was, you know what? Other people view the world and view me through their frame of reference. So if someone is unkind to me, when I walk in that room, if I feel like someone's giving me a dirty look or if they say something mean to me, is that really about me? Or is it about their frame of reference and maybe what's going on with them, maybe the way they view the world and view themselves? So that was a really important piece of this for me too, that not only do I have a frame of reference, but everyone in the world has their own frame of reference too. So even when people do things that are hurtful, that I don't like, that seem mean, I can recognize that's not really about me. That's about how they are viewing the world. And the third lesson that I learned from the Let Them theory was about comparisons. Now, I have to admit, I can be a pretty envious person. And again, I think a lot of that comes from this view that I have of myself, that I'm not good enough and other people are doing so much better than me. But what Mel Robbins says in the Let Them theory is that comparison, rather than leading us into envy and jealousy, it can actually be our teacher. We can actually look at the person who is doing the thing that we want and let them be our model. One thing, too, that we need to recognize is when we are comparing ourselves to other people, we are often seeing the best of them. We're comparing the best of them with the worst of us. So a way to look at that is we're comparing their best day with our worst day. I was talking to a friend recently about that, and she gave me another way to say that we are comparing their outer world to our inner world. So, there's so many things on like Facebook and other social media where it makes it look like people just have idyllic lives. Well, nobody really has that. But when we see that, we may feel like, oh, I don't have that. What's wrong with me? But that's our inner life, and they're putting their external life out there on the social media posts. So, comparison as a teacher, as a way to learn what we want. So what Mel Robbins says is to really look at comparison, not to bring us down, not to create envy and jealousy, but to say, oh, that's telling me something that I want. How did this person get that? Maybe I even want to go and talk to that person and figure out how they did that thing or how they have this thing that I want. So instead of feeling like, oh, that's something I could never accomplish, we can use it as a teacher, as a way to tell us the path that we would like to take. So that was a really good lesson for me too. And the fourth lesson was a big one for me too. It might be for you if, like me, you're a people pleaser. So this one is letting go of the rescuer role. How often do you try and rescue other people? Well, I know I have done this a lot in my life. And the reason that I've done this is because I was taught from an early age that in order to be okay, in order to be safe, to be accepted, to be loved, I had to be the one that took care of everyone else. I had to be the one that fixed things for people, that I had to be the rescuer in order to be loved. Now, that was rescuing people, external rescuing other people. It wasn't about rescuing myself. But when we feel like we need to be the rescuer, it's not good for us because oftentimes we are sacrificing and abandoning ourselves in order to take care of other people. So that's one thing that's happening when we feel like we have to be the rescuer for other people. The other thing that's happening is that we are robbing people of their ability to rescue themselves. We're telling them, oh, you're not strong enough. You can't do that. I don't trust you to take care of yourself. I need to do this for you. And this can happen oftentimes with children, with partners, with friends. But you know what? When we stop being the rescuer and we let other people handle their problems, it's really good for them too. It's good for us, but it's good for them too. Now, that doesn't mean we're unkind or unloving. We can certainly walk beside people. We can care about people. We can support people without rescuing them. And so that was just really a good one for me and helped me to see how I keep trying to rescue people when that's not my job. That's their job. So again, these are the 4 lessons or takeaways I got from the Let Them theory. So the first one is the power of influence. That, while I can't control everything, I can certainly influence things. Doesn't mean that the person's going to do what I want them to do, but I have influence over things in my life and over the people I love and care about in my life. The second lesson was everyone has their own frame of reference. Everyone has a lens that they see the world through. Now, this may feel like reality, but when we challenge that, we recognize, oh no, that's just my lens. That's just how I view the world. And then the other aha moment for me was other people have their own lens that they view the world through. And so the things that they do isn't about me really. It's about their lens or their frame of reference. And then the third lesson was comparison as a teacher. So when we compare ourselves to someone else and we start getting jealous or envious, stop and think about, what is this teaching me? What do I really want? Why am I envious of this person? Why am I comparing myself? Is that something that I really want in my life? And then the fourth one was about being the rescuer. So recognizing that when we try to rescue other people, we are taking away something from ourselves because we're not rescuing ourselves, and we're taking something away from the other person because we're not trusting in their ability. We're not helping them become strong individuals when we do it for them, when we rescue them. All right, so I hope this was helpful. The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins is really a good book. Like I said, I have other videos on it. This is the last video that I'm going to have on it. So I hope it's helpful, and I hope you can gain as much from that book as I have. All right, thanks so much for being here today. Bye-bye.